The convulsions at News Corp have some of the investors at the UK satellite broadcaster BSkyB contemplating regime change at the former Murdoch target. News Corp has a controlling minority stake in the company, with James Murdoch the chairman. Some large shareholders feel BSkyB has been run as an arm of News Corp despite being a separate company, and they're now grumbling. Alan McDougall is the head of PIRC, the independent pensions and investment consultants. I spoke to him a short time ago. Alan McDougall, welcome to the programme.
Hi, good morning.
Now, this week, Bloomberg reported two independent directors in News Corp were very unhappy about Rupert Murdoch's handling of the crisis. That's been doused down by the company, I know. But how do you think that the big institutional investors are feeling at the moment?
Well, we're getting feedback from our clients who represent pension funds and asset managers with holdings in both BSkyB and News Corp that they're worried about two particular issues. The first is the reputational risk, which clearly is going through the mill at the moment. And the second is what we call the governance risk. There's been some fundamental problems in the governance structure of the company for a number of years. And I think these investors are now finally deciding that something's got to be done. And I think principally that revolves around the role of James Murdoch of BSkyB as the chair. And I think our clients would like to see an independent chair. And the second issue is how far the influence of Murdoch at News Corp can be maintained, where their board is a heavily insider board. So those are the two issues on the governance front that our clients are concerned about.
Let's go to BSkyB first. You called very early that James Murdoch should step aside to clear up questionable business practices. What practices?
Well, we're concerned about the influence that the family has on BSkyB, and they have a majority on the board of 8 to 14 of directors who are sympathetic or indeed have a connection with the family. And that's the fundamental issue that we want to see changed.
Going to the fact that the deal is now no longer going ahead, Rupert Murdoch has stepped back from the BSkyB takeover. Just how much of a loss is that for News Corporation?
Well, it's difficult to assess. Clearly, short-term shareholders, hedge funds and others who are interested in the short term are disappointed. I think as far as long-term shareholders are concerned, they still see value in the company anyway. I think a number of them would have gone for the bid had it been formal. I don't think it was enough money on the table for them. But nonetheless, I do think they see long-term prospects for BSkyB as very strong, provided that the pay-per-view arrangements with Premiership football are maintained.
Last Thursday, the second largest private investor in News Corp, a Saudi prince, I think he owns 7%, told BBC's Newsnight programme that Rebecca Brooks had to go. And I think next day she was gone. I mean, this strategy of trying to cut higher and higher up the chain in order to protect News Corp's reputation, can it work?
I don't know. It's new territory here. This hasn't really happened before in one of our leading public companies in the United States market. I think the crucial issue here, I'm afraid, is going to be what you might call the legal issues. The decision by the FBI to open up a formal investigation in the US is a significant blow, I think, to News Corp's prospects. And therefore, I'm afraid we're going to have to sit around and wait until these inquiries bear fruit. In the meantime, I think shareholders want to see that board take every effort to reduce the reputational risk and introduce more independent directors on the board to give them more comfort.
Introduce more independent directors, but to what extent is management control by Rupert Murdoch and the Murdoch family at stake here?
Well, clearly it's got to change. I think there are ways of exercising control through persuasion, through debate, through open argument that a lot of boards would accept. I think in this case, the real concern is with the majority of the board supporting Rupert Murdoch, can independent investors ensure that their interests are protected? And that's why we want to see changes at an individual level on the board of directors.
It's very ironic because, you know, just a month ago, if you'd said to the market, well, we're going to remove Murdoch family control from News Corporation, I'm sure that the market would have punished the stock. And yet now, do you think that is what it's going to take to restore confidence in News Corporation?
We need to choose our words carefully here. The idea of removing all of the family and indeed its related directors is not on the cards. I think what we need is a transition period in which changes take place, new independent directors of real calibre come onto the board, create an additional and new dialogue with the family representatives, and I think out of that we will get the kind of board we want in the medium term. I don't see these changes, if they started today, I don't see these changes being complete certainly by the end of the year. I think it's going to be a medium-term process into next year, and I think then, given the outcome of the various inquiries, we can take a fresh look at the prospects for News Corp in the new year.
In the meantime, we've got issues down here. We're feeling the impact speculation now about the Foxtel bid for Austar. With that sort of uncertainty about control, are we going to see problems with News Corp's deals around the world in coming weeks?
I think that kind of depends on the specificities of regulation in each market. I'm not that familiar with the Australian market, but I imagine that the regulators will be looking at any particular proposal coming out of the News Corp stable with extra scrutiny here. And that can't be a bad thing in general. One wouldn't want to see business strategies unnecessarily stopped or halted in their tracks. But I do think the company's got to get used to the fact that it's now under the spotlight all over the world, and that means it'll have to reassess how it plays it in each market.
One of our lot, or a Kiwi at least, Tom Mockridge, has replaced Rebecca Brooks to run now News International. Has that been received well?
Difficult to tell. I think the noise of everything else is kind of crowding out any realistic assessment of what his role's going to be going forward.
Well, it'd be very interesting to see. Every day we seem to get more news on this. Alan McDougall, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. Have a good day.